Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to Commute Talk. It's neither gray nor rainy here today. We just have an honest-to-God sunrise, which I am quite pleased with, so that's nice. Today, Yassine writes in asking about doing things from scratch and what is my limit or threshold for doing things from scratch, like how much is too much, and how I'm using C++, but I don't use the standard template library, which is true, and that's an interesting question, so thank you for bringing that up. When it comes to C++, I've used the STL in the past, and I just find it really unpleasant to work with, and makes the code look kind of ugly and boring and dead inside, and that's not the kind of programming I want to do. So the STL is like banned for life from my stuff, and but my history with writing custom containers and custom templates and stuff, it goes back quite far, because both in Qt and in WebKit there was very strong focus on building custom containers and custom frameworks underneath everything for that control. Like in both of those projects, they want very serious control over data structures, and if you choose to use something like the STL, then you are giving up that control to the framework author, and very often you don't want that, especially if once you start to develop some clue of what you're doing, then you may want to steer things in a way that the libraries don't let you, with data layout and specific algorithms and things like that. And but when it comes to my personal projects and something like Serenity, the reason that I choose to do everything from scratch is twofold, actually. So it is indeed the control thing. Like, I want full control over data layout and how things work, but I also want full understanding. And that second part is really, really important to me. That I want to understand, or be able to understand, everything that's happening in the system. And that's a large part of why the work is being done in a single repository, by the way, because that puts everything in one place, and if you want to look something up, it's always there. Like, you never have to go outside of the repository to look up how something in the system works. And it seems really obvious when you're working with it, but if you've ever worked on a system that was modular and like broken into tons of separate repositories, then you know that it's very, very different. So just the feeling of like cohesion that we have in the Serenity system, that you can just browse the different components, and they're all written in a consistent style for the most part, and with consistent naming and everything, and they're consistently used, and there's not like 5 different string types that are used depending on who wrote the code. That sort of thing, it really, really helps build comprehension and build understanding, because humans and also programmers are very good at pattern recognition, right? And if you want to build understandable code, it's really important to embrace that and to keep repeating patterns. And I don't mean like patterns that you could auto-generate, but I mean to always structure your code in the same way. Like, for example, that's why I really like early return style. That I like putting the returns as early as possible in a function, like get the error handling out of the way, because it, one, achieves a very consistent layout of functions, and 2, it reduces nesting, because you don't have to nest later on to handle error cases if you handle them all up front. And 3, because it's a pattern that you start to incorporate in the way you program, and you start to recognize it. And when you look at a function, you immediately spot if there's some error handling that's sort of outside of the start of the function. So you have error handling later on, then it sort of puts you on alert, like, oh, what's going on with this? And it makes you consider that case maybe with more caution than you would otherwise if there would be error handling spread throughout. And it's just things like that I really like. And doing things from scratch allows me to apply that sort of pattern throughout the code, and to apply the exact same patterns in all the code, from kernel to user space to libraries, graphics, apps, everything. And the more we can see these patterns repeating, the better we can write code in the same style. And that's something I really like. And it's just something that you don't get if you import code from all kinds of different places. And it makes sense that you don't. And there are obvious benefits to importing existing code or to using, third-party libraries or whatever, because you can get a lot of functionality in a very short time, and you can get well-tested code, but you're never going to understand that code as well as you understand the thing that you wrote yourself or that you wrote with your friends in a style that you all are used to. And you're never going to understand library code that you just import if you don't go through the process of building the thing and testing it out and seeing it grow. You can develop an understanding, but it's a vastly more complex and difficult thing to do than to start with something small that you can understand and then iterate on top of that. And of course, in a code base like Serenity, it's not just me working on it anymore, right? Like we're now at the point where there's probably someone working on it right now, and that's really cool, by the way. Like I can't get over how weird that is, but yeah. So there's somebody writing code for it right now, and obviously they don't have the exact literal same experience that I have with the code, like having written it from scratch, but I try to still make it as possible or as close as possible for someone else to have my shared understanding of the code by putting out videos where I describe my thought process in detail as I develop these things, and by using a consistent style throughout and consistent everything and repeating patterns and the same templates everywhere and everything. And I don't know, I hope that it's possible. Like I've seen it. I've joined projects where I was not there writing the things from scratch, and I was able to develop a very good understanding of those projects over time. And I do think that having a lot of custom things made it so that I had a better understanding of those projects, because working with the custom data structures and stuff, I had to get intimately familiar with those because I wanted to. And just the process of doing that just made me more attached to the code. And I don't know how to describe it. I guess you start to feel something for the code that you're working with. And just when something is beautiful in its simplicity and its consistency, then I think it is only right that you feel something for the code that you're working with. You look at it and you say, wow, now that's what I call code. And I hope other people can have this sort of experience when they get into hacking on Serenity. And of course, there are many parts of the system that are not up to this standard, and I would like to bring them up to this standard. But the core of it is pretty good, I think, and it keeps improving, which is awesome. I feel like I'm getting off track. I don't even remember what the question was. Oh, right. How much from scratch is too much? Like, what's my limit of doing things from scratch? I guess I don't have a limit. At least not one that I impose on myself. So, in practical terms right now, I guess Serenity still uses a compiler from the outside. It uses a build system from the outside. So we didn't make those yet. And I guess it's just, I'm just not interested in doing C++ compiler at the moment. Who knows what will happen in the future, but there's so much other stuff to do right now and so much interesting stuff to engage with that I'm just gonna keep engaging with the things I'm already into, and we'll see. I'm not against doing custom things, and with many things though, it would be more about learning than about control, because I've never written a compiler, so making a compiler would be about learning for me. It would not be about getting control over everything, at least not at first, for quite a while. And indeed, with the operating system, in the beginning, it was very much about learning. And it's only quite recently that it started to become a little bit more about control and like getting control of how an operating system behaves. Because I'm sort of getting to the point where I'm getting a little bit comfortable and starting to understand how to like build kernel level features, and still a million things to learn, and the system is very, very immature, but it is nice to see that it is shifting from being 100% a learning project to, maybe 5% about control. That's pretty cool. It's interesting to observe the process. Anyway, there are many good libraries for C++, and I certainly, if I had to do something really, really quickly, and something that was supposed to be fun at the same time, I would probably use Qt. If I was writing an app for Linux or something like that, or Windows or Mac, actually. I wrote some little apps at home a while back using Qt for for keeping track of local things like, is the store open or not? How long do I have before they close? Little desktop applets like that. And yeah, I like using Qt for that type of stuff, and I would definitely recommend it. It's worth learning for sure. It is an amazing framework, but for bigger, more serious projects, it's all about learning and control. And you start out with only learning, and then you gain control over time. And the kind of control that you gain, that when you learn something, is much, much stronger control than if you just take something that exists and pick it apart and change the internals to your liking. That fundamental understanding of going through the process of building something, even if you just build a miniature replica of something, the level of understanding allows a much greater level of control. So those are my thoughts on that. And now I'm out of thoughts, so I'm just going to say thank you for asking the question, and thanks everyone for hanging out with me on the commute, and the sun is getting in my face, which is quite lovely and also annoying, but it's all good. So it's Friday, last work day of the week before we can go home and work on our pet projects or whatever else we do on the weekends. So I hope you have a great weekend, and before that, a great Friday, or at least a decent Friday. And I'll see you next time. Bye.